Today, I am happy to have my friend Daniel Tait. We are going to talk about Energy Alabama. Daniel was a part of Deep Roots of Alabama, which was a nonprofit that I did a few years ago.
Yeah, it has been
Garden
a few
health
years.
education.
Yep, that's right.
Before Germany.
That's right. Getting folks to
You're still involved in the environment. I love to see that.
For sure. Always trying to fight the good fight here and make Alabama a better place. So doing what we can.
That's right. That's right. So you are the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Energy Alabama. Tell me about the company.
About Energy Alabama. So yeah, COO of Energy Alabama, and colleague of mine, Randy Buckner. He is the CEO. So we kind of run the organization and have some other colleagues as well. John Reuter, he is helping to make sure we're resourced and staffed. But as an organization, our mission is to accelerate Alabama's transition to sustainable energy. So we got a tall task, right? Yeah. Because we have very, very little of sustainable energy here in the state. So we do that work primarily through kind of what we call our three pillars. That's education. For us, that could be everything from like working K through 12 in schools with children, helping them understand the technology, like STEM type of stuff, or also the policy barriers. Policy is the second pillar for us. So we're, always working from the state level down. So cities, utilities, counties, things like that, Public Service Commission, to try to put good policy in place to help sustainable energy grow. And
what's STEM for my listeners?
Oh yeah, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math.
Okay.
So what Huntsville's known for, right? All the techie stuff.
All those rocket scientists and their kids.
That's right. So I have brilliant kids when we go into schools, that have already been taught almost everything that I'm trying to teach, right? Because we have some genius parents at home, But yeah, so second pillar is policy related work, trying to put in good policy, and frankly, in many cases in Alabama, trying to make sure that we get bad policy either off the books or keep bad policy from going onto the books.
Okay.
So, and then the third thing that we do sometimes as well is technical assistance. If you go out there like I do and you preach the gospel enough, eventually somebody's going to say, okay, well, that sounds great, Daniel. So how do I do that?
Right.
And I can't just say, well, good luck. I'm glad you believe me now. Go have fun and, best of luck to you. Yeah. So from time to time, we do help, companies or other nonprofit organizations, things like that, to help, save energy in their buildings or, switch to renewables, things like that. So, we try to use our brain power to actually help projects get done.
Yeah, and I see that Tommy Battle and Huntsville is really supporting you and hoping to just create awareness, really, about how to save energy or how to have alternate means of energy, even for your home or your business.
Yeah, so I think we're, compared to the rest of the state of Alabama, we definitely have a leg up, here in Huntsville and in North Alabama, compared to the rest of the state. We still have a lot of work to do here, even here in Huntsville. Being as smart as we are, we just have a lot of stuff. Ranging from simple things like land use, how we actually plan and use our land here in the city, and we're starting to be a lot smarter about that. And I think that the mayor has brought on some really good people on his team to help do that. And then also, energy efficiency and renewables, like you mentioned, things that we want to, bring this into the county to help, create jobs and the economic development that goes with this. I mean, a lot of people, rightfully so, think a lot about the economic benefits of, their own back pocket. Like if I save energy, then it reduces my utility bill. And that is true. And that's very important. But if you're Mayor Battle or you're a policymaker, you also care a lot about, how can I put folks to work? How can I make sure that folks are on a good pathway to take care of their families? And this is a really good way to do that.
Are there any like federal legislation or state legislation that's trying to, trying to help us be more energy conscious for Alabama?
For Alabama, no, not really. We haven't had a lot of activity at the state level in quite some time. Really hoping that will change here in the next, year to 2 years. We have an initiative that we're pushing now called Energy Freedom Alabama. That is about a policy called third-party ownership that allows, really anyone, individuals or companies to buy energy directly from someone else other than their incumbent utility. So for instance, if you live in Birmingham, your utility is Alabama Power. There are a lot of solar providers that can beat their price, for instance, and you are not allowed, for lack of a better way to put it, to buy that cheaper energy. And so we want to change the law, right, to increase competition.
Why wouldn't you be allowed?
Well, at least the statute in Alabama is murky. It doesn't necessarily say it's illegal. It's just that it was written, 100 years ago before, any of this was really a possibility. So it was nothing nefarious. It's just that technology has progressed at a point to where it's kind of made many of the policies on the books irrelevant, and we have to update them and make sure that they can keep pace with technology in the market. So that's an initiative.
When we were living in Germany, almost, I would say, every house had solar panels, and after that initial cost, like our friends would say, the initial cost was higher, and then they have absolutely saved money on energy over the years. And Germany has a lot of cloudy days, like Alabama has a lot of sunny days. So
when I give presentations to the public, I actually show a map of the United States, and I show the average solar insolation in the U.S., right? And you look at Alabama, and we are not the desert southwest of Arizona, but we are also definitely not Alaska.
Right.
And when you look at the map of the United States, Alaska gets a lot less sunlight than Alabama. I mean, heck, anybody who lives in Alabama knows that it's hot here, right? Like, we complain it's like when we walk outside and it's humid and hot. So we can't act like it's not. But when you look at that map, Alaska's average solar insolation is very similar to Germany's, and Germany has for years been the worldwide leader in deploying solar technology. So if Germany can do it with the technical capability or opportunity of a state like Alaska, then we sure as heck can do it here in Alabama.
Well, I know my neighbor said the first year that was the most expensive. However, they also got a tax credit for changing over to solar. And they have such really old houses, too, that they just refurbished, the inside, too. So the energy capabilities in their house, too, to make it better, there's quite an incentive because a lot of them are old, drafty.
That's right. That's something that they do really well. Europe as a whole does really well. And some parts in the U.S. do a lot better than we here in Alabama do. And that is, just thinking about, for instance, that it's a lot better to take our existing housing stock and to retrofit and to make that as efficient as possible rather than continuing to grow out. So you hear a lot of talk about, when I mentioned land use, like urban infill, and that helps with transportation. And, there's just so many different things that we think of as not just electricity, right? It's transportation to move our vehicles.
The electric cars we were just talking about.
It's city services that have to get all the way out to Limestone County. So all this, you have to take all that into account. And so a lot of places in Europe and some places here in the U.S. really put an emphasis on growing the city, the urban core, because, densifying the urban core is one of the easiest, well, I won't say easiest, that's probably overstating. It's not easy, but one of the best and most cost-effective ways to bring communities' energy consumption down.
Is having people live in the city?
Having people live in the city, densifying the urban core, because when you densify, then you have a lot of other opportunities. Like, for instance, you hear a lot of people complain about public transportation here in, like, the city of Huntsville. Yeah. Well, we don't have the density that New York City has, for instance, or Paris.
Oh, sure.
And so could we do better? Heck yeah, we could do better, even with what we have now. But as we densify, there becomes a lot more opportunity for the city to provide better services because there'll be enough people to use those services when we have, a dense urban core.
So if you were a commercial developer, you would probably want to look in the city of Huntsville or a city versus being out in suburbia sprawl, just for that reason alone, right?
Well, you would think, right? But this is where it gets into policy in the sense that our policies for development and, frankly, financial incentives that we give to developers have to align with our values and goals of the community. Okay. If you wanted to develop a new commercial property here in the area, there are a lot of factors you're going to take into account, but a huge one is going to be the cost of the land. And it's going to be cheaper for you to build out because that land's going to be effectively worth a little less than, a lot in downtown Huntsville. And there's a good reason for that. At the same time, the city has an interest to try to keep you from doing that and say, well, what if we could provide a tax break or some other financial incentive to help you bring the overall cost of the development in the core down, because that keeps us from having to run water and sewer and police and fire.
New location.
Right. We already have this covered down here. And so there's a lot less cost incrementally to the city.
I can't get over how the Parkway has changed.
Right.
In the 5 years I've been gone, we drove down it, and I thought, wait a minute, that's gone. Right. This is new. Yeah. It's been really amazing, because that part of Huntsville has really changed in 5 years.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing too, there's a gazillion ways you can slice this apple, right? It doesn't have to be all like downtown Huntsville. And I think you see a concerted effort on the part of the city, knowing that Huntsville has an identity, and also knowing that Huntsville has a large geographic footprint, is to create kind of mini cores right throughout the area that you have.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, you have areas like Providence. You have a growing area in South Huntsville. Can we really grow a core in North Huntsville and start looking at, you have over the mountain in the Hampton Cove area starting to grow. So you start looking at, okay, well,
we've all over by Stovehouse,
right?
And where that's getting built up. Yeah.
So
pretty cool.
Yeah, all that's good stuff.
Other forms of energy. Do we have any windmill farms? Is wind energy?
Wind is not very prevalent here in Alabama. There are a couple of spots in Alabama where wind is a feasible resource, but Alabama is does not have as much attractive resource as, say, the Midwest. So normally when you look at wind, it's actually cheaper to build it in the Midwest, and then effectively you're sending it over the grid to Alabama. The couple of areas we do have, of course, are the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Okay. So you're looking at places like DeKalb County or Calhoun County, right there in the eastern part of the state on the border of Georgia, and then of course offshore. There's been a lot of movement in offshore wind. Okay. Europe, of course, took the lead on that, but U.S. has actually been doing a lot on offshore wind. So you start to see in the Northeast, especially like Virginia up, I start to see a lot of activity with offshore wind. So, Alabama could have some play there as well. Our biggest in terms of sustainable energy that we advocate for and that we have a good resource for, of course, number one, first and foremost, is conservation and efficiency. The cheapest energy is that which you don't buy, right? Okay. And we can all do a better job of that. Of course, obvious, the sun. So solar is probably our biggest renewable energy resource here in Alabama. And then something that we talk a lot about, whether it be transportation or electricity, is the use of storage. And that can be battery storage. Typically, people think about battery storage that way. But it doesn't have to be. It could be things like, compressed air or other types of storage. For instance, there's a facility just north of here in Tennessee, the Raccoon Mountain pumped in, hydro storage, pumping water up and then when you have excess, and then dropping it again when you need to use it to generate electricity. So there are a variety of ways you can do that, but battery storage is usually what people refer to, and so we help us.
John and I went to this water mill. I wish I remember the name of it, in Scotland.
Oh wow!
And it was built in the late 1800s by this guy who there was a waterfall at the top of the mountain, and the water naturally went down, and he created a way to force it back up the hill and back into the waterfall, and it just circulated, but it provided the energy for in the early 1900s and so on, after that, for the town. Mm-hmm. And it was really just incredible. I mean, it's still, you can go see it, and there's a cave that they walk you in, and
that's amazing.
Really incredible, because it was reverse water, and it was like way ahead of its time. Like Queen Elizabeth came and cut the ribbons in 1977 for the reconstruction of it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean we've been using the power of wind and water as humans for a long time. Even if it was just the mechanical force behind it to like use the power of the water to turn a turbine or turn something
the mills that
to grind grains, so
yeah.
We as a species have been very ingenious in finding ways to make life easier for ourselves, right? And so energy is right at the heart of that.
Yeah, saving it too. Okay, so let's see. What is the North Alabama Buildings Performance Challenge?
Well, I mentioned, the technical assistance work that we do, where we try to help companies or other nonprofit organizations save energy. This is kind of a local challenge that we have, which is, modeled after something that the Department of Energy has been doing for quite a few years, where, frankly, what you're doing is you're running a challenge and you're saying, hey, who can save the most energy? And companies, nonprofits, government agencies, whoever joins, and they throw their building stock into this system that's called Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And it's just a way to track consumption. And you're competing, right? You're trying to see like, okay, can I save more than the next guy that's like me, a grocery store versus a grocery store or something like that. So it's kind of a friendly competition, but also a way for us, to raise awareness about these issues, because almost invariably, when someone puts their buildings in the database and we help them with that and help manage that,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
They look at that and go, wow, I didn't really realize that was what was really happening and how much I was really spending. And just kind of that general awareness actually helps people save. I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense. We all drive a vehicle, and I guarantee you that when our gas tank gets a little closer to E, we're driving a little bit more conservatively than when our gas tank lever is on full, right? Well, the same thing for your building. If you understand, how your building's doing, and you have to look at that, you probably change your behavior a little bit.
I just got a new Kia Niro Eco Hybrid, and I love seeing. So there's a tree on my little dashboard screen, whatever, and it becomes green. Like with each leaf that I save. And John loves it because he said, I know that you really want a full green tree. So it slowed me down. So it's changed my driving habits. But the other day it also tells you which we cracked up laughing. It tells me what my normal driving percentage is, my economical, and then my aggressive. And so on our way to church the other day, it said 1% aggressive. He said, you better get that down to 0.
Right.
Going to church.
Well, it's funny. It's so funny how you can sit here and preach the gospel save money and do all this, and nobody really responds. But you put a game right in front of somebody, even as something as simple as turning this green, and people will do it until they're blue in the face.
I know.
So that's part of it, is making it fun and making it something that people are looking to strive to do. So it works in cars, it works in buildings. And that's what we're trying to do, is bring that awareness. And then once people see that, we're helping get their data in, we're helping manage that. If they're looking for getting projects done, we're helping them find the right contractors. And then, one of the biggest things that the challenge does, I think, in terms of providing value to the participants, is when you do a project, did you get the savings out of the project that you expected? It's one thing to, upgrade your HVAC system, for instance, but it wasn't installed properly, or wasn't commissioned properly, or you're not operating it the correct way, you don't necessarily see the savings that you projected. And if you're not looking for that, you won't know.
Right.
And so that helps people make sure that, that they spend money to do something the right way, that we're actually going to get the savings that we, expected back out of it.
Well, that's awesome. So people with either new construction or old construction, if they just take a beat and a moment to think about the overall savings at the end of the project.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's really important, I think, for whether you're looking at a home or you're looking at a commercial structure. A lot of people really fret, and understandably so, about upfront cost. And that is very important. But we also have to look at total life cycle cost, right? And total cost of operation. If I can get a building really cheaply, but it's going to cost me through the nose to operate that thing because it's so inefficient and the utilities are going to be really high, it's not necessarily the best investment for me. And right now, especially on commercial properties, there's actually not a good way for you to know that, right? You can ask for utility bills, But you don't know that the previous tenant did in that building what you plan to do in that building. And so you also see some cities around the country, even quite a few here in the Southeast, look at labeling legislation. So what that means is, just like how would you go into a restaurant
Sure.
and you have a health rating, is that when you go into a commercial facility, especially if you're trying to buy and or rent, there's an independent third-party rating to say this is how efficient this building is,
right,
for its type. And that way, like, it's something I want to do.
Do it for every appliance you buy at
Right.
Lowe's, because people are concerned about that,
Yep.
because it comes down to dollars and cents.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you know that,
Yeah.
you're much more likely, to make different decisions. Now, you may still buy an inefficient property, but at least you will understand what you're
Right.
getting yourself into.
Yeah. Having the knowledge ahead of time.
That's right. And that's, that goes back to, that's a policy, right? That's something that we had to put in place, whether that be kind of a city target that the city is going to require. That's like what the city of Atlanta does. They actually require that to be posted or at least publicly available, that information. Or at the state level. So some states have actually just mandated it from the state level. You hear the word mandate and a lot of people turn the other way and think, oh, that's we don't do mandates. But in cases like this, I think it's really important for people to understand that what we're mandating here is to make sure that the market has information.
Right.
Like the market can't operate effectively as it was intended if the market is just missing very valuable pieces of information. And so it's not a mandate making people do anything. It's a mandate to make sure that you're going to have the information you need to make good decisions.
It would be awesome if Alabama could lead.
That would be good. That would be good.
That would be
It would be rare, but we can do it.
We can do it.
There you go. Cheers to that.
Okay, so how can people support Energy Alabama or get involved, become an advocate?
Yeah, we need people power, no doubt about it. I mean, we have a lot of challenges here in the state, and so there are things that you can do, both individually in your life, but more importantly than that, we need people to be taking action. And so, like we have a lot of resources on our website about things that we would ask of our local leaders, things that we would ask of our state leaders. We need people to be taking those actions, contacting their city leaders, their local utility, things like that. So we have all those resources on our website. Of course, I have to put the plug out there for people to join and become a member.
Absolutely.
We have individual memberships.
And it wasn't much.
No, it's not much at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, memberships start at $5,
Yeah.
and so that, more so than the money is about, making sure that your voice is heard. Like when we go and speak to legislators or we go and speak to leaders, that we know, hey, we have, X hundred of people that live in your district that are asking for these types of changes to be made, right? So this whole idea of people power, it really is what comes out of membership. And then, of course, we also have corporate membership as well. So if your company is dedicated to this type of work, or you're have values that really hit on sustainability and trying to do right by our community, we encourage you to do that too. But yeah, all these resources are available on our website, so just check it out, energyalabama.org. So just go there, check it out. There's a whole section about taking action, even if you don't join us, right? There are tons of things you can do to make this community and the state a better place, and so we'll hope you'll do that.
And do you have projects coming up, or?
Well, we do have some. We have, of course, the Energy Freedom Alabama, kind of a push that we're doing to legalize kind of some of the competition and the power purchase agreements that we talked about. So we got some information there. That's going to be unrolling here in the next few days.
Okay.
Maybe even have already unrolled by the time this airs, or for your listeners. So all that information will be there about what they can do as part of that campaign. Of course, we're always doing stuff in the community, so we'll have events up if we're
that'll be all on the website.
Yeah, speaking somewhere, or for that matter, we're always happy if you have listeners or people that say it would really be great if you would come speak to this community group that I'm involved in. Please reach out and let us know. We're always happy to.
And educators can also just reach out and say, hey, can you come to the school? And,
sure can. And really, I'm really glad you brought up educators. We have a whole section on our website. We have energy related lesson plans that are built,
wow.
Especially we have a lot
that's
for
super
K-6,
easy. Yeah.
and they can just go on there and download them and use them. You don't need us to be in the middle to do excellent work in the classroom.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, definitely take a look at those resources and use them if they're helpful.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, this was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
thanks so much
I can
for
always preach the
chatting.
gospel about sustainable energy, so
That's
it's
so
easy for me to do.
awesome. Thanks for joining us here today for Talking Travel with Wendy.